Hey everybody, what's happening? Hope you guys are good. July, what is it? The 23rd. That's right. And that means there's a concert for me to go to tonight. I get to hang out with a wonderful friend. And so that'll be great. Welcome to the Morning Devo with me, Beau. Hope you guys are good. Sorry I'm a little late today. Got into the gym and then had this really cool talk with a person. And you know how sometimes you get going and boy, it was fruitful. Let's say that. A very fruitful and God-centered conversation. But anyway, sorry I'm a little bit late today. What time is it? 9:38. So I'm 38 minutes late. Anyway, we're going to be in Exodus 18. Love this chapter, by the way. Super cool. So let's kind of roll into it. And you can always check out the archives at my YouTube channel at Beau. It's right there, that French-Canadian name in the top right. You could put that into the search bar at youtube.com and get to my channel where I have a playlist and a lot of content, a lot of going through the whole book of the Bible, right? Just verse by verse, just reading through the book. The reason I do that is because I really believe if you know the source of things, like if you read a particular source, then you'll understand kind of life a lot better, understand what goes on in the world. So if you're going to talk about the Middle East, you might want to read the different various religious books that are there, that are present. If you're discussing, say, Iran, and you've never read the Quran before, you don't know anything about the Sirah or the Hadiths, you're going to miss it. You could be on CNN. For all I know, you could be the super greatest commentary ever, or news anchor. But if you've never read it, then you really aren't grabbing it. You're not going to get why people do what they do, what they're holding on to, what their worldview is, and will probably misunderstand people. So it's important to know the source, man. I love going through the Bible. I didn't grow up going through the Bible. I grew up I was an atheist. I didn't think of anything. It wasn't until a little later in my teenage years that I actually picked up a Bible and started reading it. Grateful for Bob Marley came out with an album called Exodus. Metallica came out with music that mentioned Iron Maiden, another I think of Dio too. Different bands that talked about heaven and hell and Pharaoh and the book of Exodus and things like that. And it really made me think of where this all came from. So read the source. That's what we do on the Morning Devo with Beau. So chapter 18, Moses' father-in-law, Jethro, the priest of Midian. I find that fascinating too. Again, Moses marries a lady who is the daughter of a priest of Midian. Heard about everything God had done for Moses and his people, the Israelites. He heard especially about how the Lord had rescued them from Egypt. Earlier, Moses had sent his wife Zipporah and his 2 sons back to Jethro, who had taken them in. Moses' first son was named Gershom, for Moses said, "When the boy was born, I have been a foreigner in a foreign land." His second son was named Eliezer, for Moses said, "My God of my ancestors was my helper. He rescued me from the sword of Pharaoh." Jethro, Moses' father-in-law, now came to visit Moses in the wilderness. He brought Moses' wife and 2 sons with him, and they arrived while Moses and the people were camped near the mountain of God. So it must have been a situation of like, hey, take care of the family. I'm Jethro, because I got some stuff to do with this giant group of people. And they're coming out of Egypt. And so Jethro finally says, okay, I'm going to go take the kids and my daughter, and we're going to go to Moses. So he brings him to Moses, camped near the mountain of God. Jethro had sent a message to Moses saying, "I, Jethro, your father-in-law, am coming to see you with your wife and your 2 sons." So Moses went out to meet his father-in-law, and he bowed low and kissed him. They asked about each other's welfare and then went into Moses' tent. So the wonderful respect there, I just got to mention, like, is my heart like that, where I kind of pay respect to people? Like, do I pay respect to my father-in-law? Do I treat him kindly? Am I a person who wants to respect people? Or am I kind of not about the business of respecting anyone? Do I tend to be harsh? Do I tend to be a person who's not thinking of maybe their particular role in my life and how important that really is, and to give some respect to those people? Some people say they really care. Some people say they're really this, but if you don't show a proper respect and kindness and gentleness, then it's very difficult for people to really believe you or believe me when we say, "Oh yeah, I care. Oh, I'm a Christian. Oh yeah, da 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 da." But yet we become harsh and quarreling and fighting and non-respectful. Have you ever been out to eat with someone and they treat the waiter or waitress bad? You're with a person, but they treat that waiter or waitress really, really bad. They say things that are bad. They are harsh. They're complaining. Man, there's just no respect at all. That's an awkward situation. That never feels that good, right? People that are nice. It's fun to be around people that are nice, kind, respectful. And so it's kind of neat that Moses does this. Notice Moses does this. He's a leader, but yet he does this. And, I got to be a leader that leads that way, leads in a respectful manner. They asked about each other's welfare and then went into Moses' tent. Moses told his father-in-law everything the Lord had done to Pharaoh in Egypt on behalf of Israel. He also told about the hardships they had experienced along the way and how the Lord had rescued his people from all their troubles. Jethro was delighted when he heard about all the good things the Lord had done for Israel as he rescued them out of the hand of the Egyptians. "Praise the Lord," Jethro said, "for he has rescued you from the Egyptians and from Pharaoh. Yes, he has rescued Israel from the powerful hand of Egypt. I now know that the Lord is greater than all the gods, because he rescued his people from the oppression of the proud Egyptians. Then Jethro, Moses' father-in-law, brought a burnt offering and sacrifice to God. Aaron and all the elders of Israel came out and joined him in a sacrificial meal in God's presence. So this is cool. We get kind of an insight too into kind of how people thought back then. By this time, you could see that there's a confusion on who the real God is. Who is the real God? There's like from the time of Adam and Eve to the time of Moses, there's been kind of a lost connection with the true and living God. As people spread out over the earth and populations grow, people have been worshiping gods and creating gods, but they're not the real God. It's not the real creator. They've kind of made God into these images and likenesses. And the work of God through Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and hence Moses, is one of restoring the knowledge of the true and living God, who the true living God is. And Jethro gets it. Jethro understands that, oh my gosh, yeah, the Egyptians, man, they don't have their real God. But Moses, the God that they're worshiping, is the true and living God. And so you could see that our world is very much today, thousands of years later, still in that horrible predicament where we are, in a sense, chasing after all other gods and goddesses and whatever. We're still chasing, right, false deities all the time, never quite coming to the true and living God. And this is what Jesus came to do, right, is reveal the true and living God. I've come to show you the Father. I've come to reveal the truth. This is what Jesus has come to do. He is the apocalypse. In a sense, he is the unveiling of the true and living God. He is the revelation. And this is what God is doing, is bringing knowledge of who he is to the world. He does this through a nation, and through that nation, he himself comes to the planet and visits it in a body. It shouldn't surprise you, because we've already read from Genesis going through it that God comes to the earth quite a bit. And so in a body. So that shouldn't be a shocker to you. So Aaron and all the elders of Israel came out and joined him in a sacrificial meal in God's presence. So we see a lot of good fellowship really around the worshiping of God. This is important in our life. It's got to be important in my life, where I just stay around people that want to worship the true God, the true and living God, centered around the sacrifice. I love that. Jesus is our sacrifice. He is our Passover lamb. We want to be centered around him. Many people are doing all kinds of rituals, but they're not focused on the Lord. And, Jesus wants us to focus on him, fix our eyes upon Jesus, the author and finisher of your faith. Beautiful passage. I love to bring that one up. That's an important one. He is the author. This is how you get saved. He's the author. He's the composer, but he's also the finisher. He comes in and he does it. He finishes it. The next day, Moses took his seat to hear the people's disputes against each other. They waited before him from morning till evening. And when Moses' father-in-law saw all that Moses was doing for the people, he asked, "Why are you, what are you really accomplishing here? Why are you trying to do this alone while everyone stands around you from morning till evening?" Moses replied, "Because the people come to me to get a ruling from God. When a dispute arises, they come to me, and I am the one who settles the case between the quarreling parties. I inform the people of God's decrees and give them his instructions." "This is not good," Moses' father-in-law exclaimed. "You're going to wear yourself out, and the people too. This job is too heavy a burden for you to handle all by yourself. Now listen to me, and let me give you a word of advice. And may God be with you. You should continue to be the people's representative before God, bringing their disputes to him. Teach them God's decrees and give them his instructions. Show them how to conduct their lives. Select from all the people some capable, honest men who fear God and hate bribes. Appoint them as leaders over groups of 1,150 and 10. They should always be available to solve the people's common disputes, but have them bring the major cares to you. Let the leaders decide the smaller matters themselves. This will help you carry the load, making the task easier for you. If you follow this advice, and if God commands you to do so, then you will be able to endure the pressures. All these people will go home in peace. Moses did listen to his father-in-law's advice and followed his suggestions. Boy, is that cool. Moses was teachable. Gotta love that. Am I teachable? Do I get any advice? Do I listen to it? Or do I just kind of push it aside? He chose capable men from all over Israel and appointed them as leaders over his people. He put them in charge of groups of 1,150 and 10. These men were always available to solve the people's common disputes. They brought the major cases to Moses, but they took care of the smaller matters themselves. Soon after this, Moses said goodbye to his father-in-law, who returned to his own land. So what great advice this morning for the devotion. If we just look at this chapter and we look at the advice that Jethro gives. Is, hey, Moses, man, I know they're coming to you, but you're going to wear yourself out. You need helpers. You need assistants. You need people. You needed people to hold up your hand during that, battle with the Amalek. You needed people. You need to put the rock down so you could have a seat. Remember, Moses got tired. He got tired of holding his hands up. He got tired of standing up, so he needed a place to rest. You need people around you. And this is important. It can't always be about you or about me. We need people to help. We need people to shoulder a load. Notice it said to take the pressure off. Sometimes when the pressure's on Moses all the time, right? I gotta produce, there becomes a lot of pressure. And isn't it interesting that a lot of times, our pressure that we have on us is because we probably are carrying way too much than we need to be. It could be, stuff we're doing, just we're not thinking through it. We're carrying way too much of the load. We put a lot of pressure on ourselves that I have to perform. Isn't it wonderful that in salvation, when it comes to the saving of the soul, that the pressure's off? It is a work of God, not even a work of you. You can't even perform it. You can't even, there's nothing you could bring to the table. Salvation is truly a work of God in a person. And that just takes the pressure right off. You're saved by grace. Do you feel like you always can't measure up? You feel like you need to do more religious rituals? Do you feel like you have to do more and more and more for God to care and love you and die for you? And, do you feel like you have to do more and more and more? Then you're probably, in a cult or in something, that's not helping. We're saved by grace through faith, not of works, lest anyone should boast. Man, it's not, your performance ain't going to do it. A lot of times, though, we put that pressure on us to perform, and we live in a world of performance. You do a good deed, you get a reward, and we grow up in that, and that plays a big part of our lives. If I'm just in my marriage and I just work harder, perform, everything's going to go right. But that's not necessarily the case, right? Sometimes we need help in our lives, help with tasks, help to be a good husband, help to be a wife, help to be a friend. We need to know what to do, how to do it better. What are different things we can do? We need other people's advice, what they've learned over the years. Jethro learned that, hey, you can't just take it on yourself. You need to have some people come and join you. And that's important for us. You might have a burden and you're shouldering that burden all by yourself. Well, maybe you need to get with your friends and just share that honest burden that you're carrying and let them shoulder some of that. Pray for you. give you advice? Am I willing to take advice? I mean, is my heart such where I'm willing to even receive from anybody? Or am I constantly, pushing people away? No, 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 no kind of idea. So it's a good one. It's a good chapter, and it's a good devotion for me to think about. Am I willing to take advice? Am I willing to be teachable? Is that a quality of my heart? Am I teachable? Or am I just not going to take advice at all? Will I take financial advice? Will I take, spiritual advice? Will I take, just advice on anything? So good questions. Short devotion, but a great chapter. I love it. Worshiping the Lord, Aaron, Jethro, Moses, the crew, getting together, wanting to focus on the Lord. Just a good stuff. So, okay, you guys have a great day, and maybe work on some of that idea of being teachable in your life. We'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.